Welcome to this YSL Report Builder tutorial. In this video we'll look at how you can use placeholders in reports. We'll start with a quick look at how you use placeholders for field values and how you can assign multiple placeholders to the same text box in a table. We'll then explain the difference between formatting a placeholder and formatting a text box. And then towards the end of the video we'll look at creating custom placeholders for expressions and how to assign conditional formatting to placeholders. So let's get started. To get started, I've created a new report in Report Builder, and the first thing I'll do in here is create a data source to connect to the YSL Movies database. If you don't already have a copy of that, you can head over to this video, which explains exactly how to get it installed, and there's a link in that video's description you can use to download any files you'll need. Once you've done that, I'm going to right-click on my Data Sources folder and then choose Add Data Source. I'll call this one Movies, and then choose to use an embedded connection rather than a shared one. I'll make sure I'm using a SQL Server connection and then click the Build button to get a bit of help building up the connection string. For the server name, I'll type in a shortcut to my local host, so // and then the name of the instance of SQL Server I'm using, which is SQL 2017. I can then select my movies database from the drop-down list towards the bottom of the dialog box, and then click OK a couple of times to create my data source. Next, I can create a dataset, and I can do that by right-clicking on the movies data source and choosing Add Dataset. I'll call this one Films, and then use the Query Designer button at the bottom to get a bit of help building up my select statement. From the Tables folder, I'm going to expand the Film table, and then I'm going to select the title, release date, budget dollars, and box office dollars. So just those 4 fields. Then I can click OK a couple of times, and there's my dataset created. Next, I'll create a basic table to display those results. I'll start by getting rid of this title text box, then right-click into the page footer and choose to remove that. Then I can right-click into the report body and choose Insert Table. I'll assign all 4 fields to the table, so title, then release date, then budget dollars, and box office dollars. I can drag box office dollars from the dataset and attach it to the right-hand side of the table. Just to avoid the font rendering bug where you may well have encountered this previously when you run a report and it doesn't display the text in your table, a simple way to solve this problem, although it's actually worked in this particular case, but if you run the report and you don't see any text, the simple way to solve that is to highlight all the cells in the table and then simply change away from the default font to any other font, and then if you wanted the default one again, switch back to that. I'll just do some very basic formatting for the column headers as well. So just a background colour and then make the font bold, and then that's the basic version of the report created. Next, I'd like to apply some basic formatting to the release date, budget and box office columns, and we have several choices for how we can do that. If I switch back to the design view, a fairly simple way to format the release date with a standard date format is just to select the text box containing the release date and then use the drop-down list on the Home tab of the ribbon to apply the date format. And then when I run the report, it's formatted in a standard day, month, year format. I could do the same thing for the budget and box office, but if I selected the budget column or the budget cell and then applied the currency format, because it's based on the regional settings of my computer, when I run the report it shows me the value in pound sterling rather than US dollars. So to change the way that works, I could head back to the design view and then I can right click on the text box containing budget dollars and choose text box properties. On this dialog box, I'll have an option to see the number page, so I can click on the number option on the left-hand side. I've already assigned the currency format, but it's set some default properties here. I don't want 2 decimal places, so I'll get rid of those. And I don't want to use pound sterling as the symbol, so I'll click on the drop-down arrow here, scroll upwards to find dollars English United States, and then select that and click OK. When I click the run button now, I'll see that my budgets are formatted in US dollars instead. The final way we're going to show you how to do this back in the design view to do the same thing to the box office dollars. So far we've been applying the formatting to the entire text box, but it's also possible to select the individual item inside the text box. If I click on the text box office dollars, that selects the placeholder for the box office dollars field. Once I've got that selected, I can right click on it, and rather than choosing text box properties, I've got the option to choose placeholder properties. Now the entire dialog box is somewhat different to the text box properties dialog box, but I still have access to the number page. So I can select number, choose currency, reduce the number of decimal places down to 0. I'll make sure I'm using 1000 separator, and then again change the symbol from pound sterling to dollars English United States. Okay, so having done that, I can then run the report, and the same formatting will be applied to the box office dollars. It's just that we've done this by applying it to the placeholder properties rather than the text box properties. So why would I choose to format the placeholder rather than the text box containing the value? Well, there are several reasons for doing that. One might be if you have more than one field in the same text box. Let's modify the way the title cell is displayed. I want to show the title and the release date so that, for example, Jurassic Park will say, Jurassic Park was released on, and then the release date. If I switch back to the design view, I can click into the cell containing the title placeholder so that I can see the flashing text cursor, and I'll place that at the end of the title placeholder. I can then begin typing in more text at the end of that, so I'll type in a space and say was released on. And then I want to insert the release date field. I've got a couple of ways I can do that. One way would be to actually type in the release date field contained in a set of square brackets. So I can open some square brackets and type in the field name, release date. And when I close the square brackets, that's recognized as a field. You'll see it's highlighted in grey, so that will refer to that field's value. An alternative way to do this, if I backspace that off, while the flashing text cursor is displayed in the cell, I can still drag the release date field from the dataset and drop that into the existing string of text. So if I then run the report, I'll see that the phrase now says Jurassic Park was released on, and then the full date and time of release for that particular film. I can carry on doing this to add as many placeholders as I like to the same text box. So I'd like to add another part to the sentence, so Jurassic Park was released on this date and made this much money. So I'm going to reference the box office dollars field. So back in the design view, I can click back into the same text box, and then I can type in at the end of that sentence and made, and then after that I want to reference the box office dollars. Rather than typing it in this time, I'm just going to directly click and drag to get it from the dataset and drop it at the end of that string. I'll just change the width of that column as well, and the width of a couple of other columns too, so we can see everything more clearly. And then if I run the report, we'll see that we've got the title and the release date and the box office dollars all in the same cell. So now what happens if I wanted to apply formatting to the release date and the box office dollars? As you can probably imagine, if I switch back to the design view and highlight the cell, if I try to apply the same format to the entire text box, then things aren't going to work out quite so well. If I try to apply the date format first of all, and then when I run the report, I'll see that the date has indeed been formatted, but nothing at all has happened to the box office dollars. If I switch back to the design view and then right click onto that text box and choose text box properties, if I head to the number page and I choose to go to the currency format, reduce the number of decimal places down to 0, use 1000 separator and use United States dollars as the currency symbol. When I click OK, I'll run the report and something even stranger happens. It formats the box office dollars, but then it completely messes up the release date format. It simply shows the value of the custom number format that's been applied. So that's not particularly helpful. So of course this is where applying formats to the individual placeholders works best. If I head back to the design view, I'm going to select that cell and just change the formatting of the entire cell back to default. Then I can click on each of the placeholders individually, so I'll select release date first. Then I can right click and view the placeholder properties if I like, but I can also just simply select the date format while the placeholder is selected. So using the drop down list at the top, I can choose date for the release date. For box office dollars, I'll need to do some modifications again, so I'll select box office dollars. Then I can right click and choose placeholder properties, head to the number page, choose currency, 0 decimal places with 1000 separator and United States dollars as the currency symbol. Having done that, I can click OK and then run the report again. And now I've individually formatted two different placeholders using two different formats. You can also create your own custom placeholders in a text box. And in fact, this happens automatically anytime you create a calculation in a text box. Let's add a new column which shows the profit made by each film. So we'll subtract the budget dollars from the box office dollars. If we head back to the design view, we can insert a new column to the right of the existing table. And then we can right click into that text box and choose expression. In the expression builder, I'm going to head to the fields category, then double click the box office dollars field, type in a subtract or minus symbol, and then double click the budget dollars field. So the entire expression, fairly simple, looks like so. Having done that, I can click OK, and you'll see that I get a little item added to the text box. The words EXPR, short for expression, of course, sitting in that text box to indicate a calculation is being performed. If I run the report at that stage, I'll see the result. But that thing I've just created there is a placeholder. If I switch back to the design view, if I click on the word EXPR and then right click on it, you can see that I've got the option to view placeholder properties. So this is just a placeholder which doesn't currently have a name. If I choose placeholder properties, I can assign a name to that newly created expression by entering a value into the label box. If I wanted to call this one profit, I can type in the word profit there, click OK, and now my placeholder, it hasn't changed the expression of course, but it has changed the name applied to it, so it's a little more easy to understand what's going on when you are designing the report. So I can run that and I can see the same results. And then I could apply some basic formatting to that placeholder. In the same way, I can select it, right click on it, choose placeholder properties, head to the number page and do the same thing as I've done several times already, 0 decimal places for the currency format with a 1000 separator, and then use United States dollars as the currency symbol. I can then click OK, run the report, and there's the final result. So a placeholder gets created for you automatically whenever you add an expression to a text box, but you can also choose to insert placeholders explicitly. Let's extend the value shown in this cell. I want it to say something like Jurassic Park made a profit of this amount of money. But where the film made a loss, like for Evan Almighty, it will say Evan Almighty made a loss of this amount of money. So to do that, I can head back to the design view and I can click into the cell containing the profit placeholder, and I can click just at the beginning of that text box. In fact, it might be worthwhile changing the width of that text box first to make it a little easier to see what's going on. And then if I click at the beginning of that and start typing in the name of the title field in some square brackets, so I can say title in square brackets, made a, and then I'll just leave a couple of spaces and then write the word of. So in between the words a and of, I want to insert either the word profit or the word loss. So I've positioned the flashing cursor just in between those two words, and then I can right click in that position and choose to create a placeholder. What I can then do is create a label for it. So I'll call this one profit or loss. And then for the value, I can either write in an explicit value, I can select an existing field from the dataset, or I can click the FX button to launch the expression builder and create a new calculation. So here I'm going to use the if function. I can head down to the common functions category and select program flow, and then double click the if function. Then from the fields list, I'm going to ask if the box office dollars field is less than the budget dollars. So if it made less money at the box office than it cost to be made, then I want to display the word loss. So in some double quotes, I'll type in the word loss, then another comma, and then I'll type in the word profit in double quotes, and then close the round brackets. So that's the final expression. Once we've done that, we can click OK, and then click OK again, and we'll see that the new placeholder has been inserted into the middle of that phrase, and it will generate the correct result as appropriate. So let's have a quick look. If we run the report at that stage, we should see that each film describes its profit or loss appropriately according to the result of that if function. We've already seen that we can apply basic formatting to an individual placeholder. Just for the final part of the video, we'll show that you can also assign conditional formatting. So for the value of the profit, I want to format the font in different colours according to whether it was a positive or a negative number. So to do that, I'm going to head back to the design view and I'm going to highlight the profit placeholder and then right click on it and choose placeholder properties. I can then head to the font page of the dialog box and then find the font colour property and click the FX button at the right hand side to launch the expression builder. What I can then do is test the same condition I used to determine whether the film was made a profit or a loss. So I can head to my common functions category, choose program flow, double click the if function, head to the fields list, double click the box office dollars field, and then ask if that is less than the budget dollars. I can then type in a comma, and then to choose the colour for the font for loss-making films, I can head to the constants category, and then I'm going to choose this dark orange colour, or tomato as it's named in this grid. Then type in another comma, and then I can select the font colour for profit-making films, so I'll make those blue. I can then close the round brackets. The entire expression looks like so. We have another video in this playlist which explains how to apply conditional formatting, which goes into a lot more detail about this sort of technique, but just a nice simple example here. If I click OK a couple of times then, run the report, I'll see that the font colours of profit and loss values are now different. So there we go, some basic ideas for using placeholders in your report. Nothing particularly complicated about it, but hopefully you'll find some uses for that. Thanks for watching, see you next time.